Hello and welcome back to the White Pube podcast. I am ZM and it is Sunday the 8th of December 2024. If you don't know, the White Pube is a website I run with my friend and collaborator Gabrielle de la Puente, and between us, me here in London and Gab over in Liverpool, we write a text every Sunday about culture. That can be, mostly it is art exhibitions, but sometimes it's video games, sometimes it's a film, sometimes it's a book, sometimes it's music, sometimes it's just an idea. Whatever culture takes our fancy on any given Sunday. And this, we publish those texts on thewhitepube.com or .co.uk, and then this podcast feed is where we publish the audio versions of those texts so that you can hear us, the writers, read our own words in our own voices. It's a bit more personable. Maybe you want to read with your ears and not with your eyes. That's fine. We all know that I need to work on my intro game, so I've got a little list of things to talk about. That was number one. And then number two is that we are approaching the end of the year, and all year I keep forgetting to remind you that the White Pube is primarily funded by our readers. I never mention it. I'm really bad at this. But the most stable and consistent form of funding we get is not from a private company, it is not from an advertiser, it is not from public funding, but it is rather funded by our readers. We don't want to put up a paywall, so it's kind of just an honour system, or a good faith system. If you can afford to pay £1 a month, then please can you do so and sign up to our Patreon, which is, it can be found if you just type in patreon.com/thewhitepube, but you can also go to thewhitepube.com/support, and if you can only do a one-time donation, that is fine too, as well. You can just give us a little Christmas bonus. But the point is that times are rough, material conditions are conditioning, and we just need to keep the lights on. So if you have got a quid spare every month, sling it our way, and we will continue producing high quality writing about culture, which we all love, and is why we're all here. The third thing I need to say is that we obviously have a book out called Poor Artists. We cannot stop banging on about it. We're so proud. We spent ages writing it. It's really good, and it's available in most good bookshops, I think. And if it's not available in a good bookshop, then you can order it in. If you want to buy it for Christmas, for a present for someone you love who's interested in art, it's very good. I can't do the elevator pitch. I need to work on my intros. None of them are ever any good, but there you go. Poor Artists. Out now. Great Christmas present. It's a hardback, and then you take off the little outside dust jacket cover, and there's a little naked lemon on the inside. What's not to love? And it's very good, I've heard. Goodreads has been overwhelmingly positive about it. And Goodreads is never positive about anything. No offence to Goodreads, but I'm a little bitch on Goodreads. So, there's that. And then lastly, I will get on to the text. The reason you're all here, listening to me natter on for 3.5 minutes. I will say, as a disclaimer, I know I've just been on about reader sponsorship being the main source of our funding, but I was going to write about this show anyway. It is kind of up my street. I'm interested, I'm invested. I was probably going to come along, think about whether I'd write something. I probably knew I was going to write something. And then the artist reached out to me and said, hello, me and the gallery have been talking. We've got £110 left over from the press budget to commission someone to write something. Would you like to write something? And I said, please, give that to someone else. I'm going to write about this anyway. And they said, oh, well, I might as well give it to you. And I said, okay then. Because I'm not a mug. I'm not going to say no to that. So long story short, I'm getting paid £110 to talk about this. It hasn't affected my review, I will say. But this is a review of Laisul Hoque's show, an ode to all the flavours, at the Whitechapel Gallery. It was only in Whitechapel Gallery for one day, and I will get straight into the review. But stick around until the end for the little emoji. We play a game where if you get to the end of this, I give you an emoji to comment on the Instagram. It's just cute. It's just a way of me figuring out who's reading and putting names and faces to anonymous not even numbers, because we don't even have Google Analytics. It's just a nice way to fill in the Google Analytics gap, really. But yeah, okay, I'll get to reading. This was only in the gallery for a day. 8.5 hours exactly. The door was heavy, the room was dark and silent and empty. Empty except for one dark cabinet, a yellow screen and a yellow glow. It's funny. The yellow glow is the most immaterial component, but it was the first thing I saw. The cabinet was facing away from the door, a shadowy body with its back to me. I walked round to see its face. Yellow glow. A tight square and very blinding. 2 wooden shelves with 2 metal trays on each, doubled up again because the cabinet is mirror-backed. 2, 4, 8. Quick maths. The light bending against the mirror, gleam on steel, top shelf. Juri if I am Bengali, Sev if I am Gujarati. Fried crunchy things made of gram flour if I am talking to you, godless English. Bottom shelf, bundi, which is the same in both languages. One is salty and savoury and spicy. You are meant to mix it with puffed rice and spicy potatoes, lemon, red onion and green chilli. One is syrupy sweet, almost sickly, meant to be packed tight into a sugar-crusted ball. A laddu to me. But there were metal tongs and 1 paper cup. There I was mixing them together, listening to instructions. I ate them in the dark, facing the yellow glow. Over my crunching, I could hear something. Not silence. Brown noise. I thought it was a fan whirring in the background, something else, or I don't know. It barely registered until I stood in it. I was last over in 2019, travelling with a camera and a tripod because I wanted to make a film about my dada and the war and the rivers and ghosts. My uncle drove me around in his banged up Honda. He was more determined to make this film than I was. He would stop at nothing for me to get the shot. We drove out of Dhaka, past yellow fields and flat grey expanses of water, the delta. He stopped to pick up weed from his guy, a man selling marigolds on the side of a motorway. I got out of the car too and looked through the windows of the shops. No glass, corrugated tin and tiled floors, fluoro lights and fan noise. Enormous stainless steel vats stacked on top of each other, bigger than buckets, full of milky, cloudy liquids. The man in the shop was sat watching YouTube videos on his phone. He saw me and got up, looked busy, stirred the vats with a big spoon. In the churn, I saw soft beige blobs, like a massive bean swirling around. My uncle appeared next to me, asked if I had a sweet tooth. I smiled, shook my head. We got back into his banged up Honda and continued out into the countryside. He was smoking a zoot out the window, very fear and loathing in Las Vegas, but also not. We crossed a brand new bridge made of concrete. Tall trees, banana leaves, my dada's village between 2 rivers. He was born in a tin hut. He came to London and worked for the government. Nothing important. Those days were over. He used to go down Brick Lane measuring the restaurants to check they were paying the right taxes for the square footage. I should have made a film about that instead. Silly old man. Lovely old man. In his beige Harrington and flat cap. He'd walk in the door with packets of Hubba Bubba for me. Pull them out of his pocket like they were magic. I should have made a film about that. In early pandemic 2020, Moose magazine published an essay by Cedric Falk, Transactional Objects Full of Contexts in Voided Sites. He writes about the work of 4 artists, Carolyn Lazard, Ima Abasi Okon, Cameron Rowland, Abbas Zahedi, the connections and relationships between their practices, what that might mean or do in a gallery. Because there is a relationship between them. The object's specificity, the way the objects all speak and feel heavy or loaded, despite being objects, so illegible through language, not able to literally actually speak. It's the shorthand of the ready-made, 1 step, 2 step plus, but they do something, don't they? All those artists, Their work says or does something through object. The objects are placed specifically and in relation to the institution. They're speaking, oblique, and it's actually not about the object, but about the power dynamic, the players, what Cedric calls the transactionality. Something is secretly passing between the institution and the object. The object is pointing away. Cedric calls it the enactment of various politics of refusal, pointing at the institutional shell around them while simultaneously deserting it. Their work, the objects, they speak of a world outside the gallery container, a world that conceptually and literally doesn't come in, a world that the gallery doesn't go out into. They point at this hermetic seal, a world full of context they are out of. In isolation and limbo, they sing. Sing in empty rooms. Sing of the impossibility of object and context being reunited once more. Cameron Rowland's mortgaged doors, Ima Abasi Okon's stacked chairs available to be borrowed by the artist's local church, Carolyn Lazard's elevators full of white noise, Abbas Sahedi's exit signs, singing and singing pulsating shutters. The object is the container is contained, the world outside is context. Back to the gallery. Laisul Hoque's An Ode to All the Flavours was only in the Whitechapel's Gallery 2 for 8.5 hours. The snack in the cabinet is unusual, unconventional. It's like dipping Mackey's fries into a Mackey's milkshake, a mix of separate things that come together to make a personal foible. It's the artist's father's favourite snack. There's a text on the back of the press release where Laisul describes a childhood memory of walking to a sweet shop with his dad to eat this specific snack mix, holding his hand, feeling like there was an emotional, intimate exchange in the sharing of this snack. A personal foible, a part of the person, a quirk. The text describes that the artist's father is quite a conventional man, unemotional. There's a distance between them. This cabinet is a monument to fleeting moments when there is no distance, only intimacy, only being known and seen and loved entirely for the tender soft spots, for the quirks and foibles, these delightful and human things that are ultimately only small. But the world is made up of small things. The small things are the entire point. This is a loving portrait. It conceals and reveals something precious. The cabinet, the trays, the yellow glow, they are also an object. The object points. They call Brick Lane Bangla Town, don't they? Well, they used to. The street signs are bilingual. You leave the gallery, turn the corner, and you see an actual, real and entire Bengali sweet shop with laddus stacked in pyramids, pointing outside the gallery. Whitechapel Gallery is an interesting kind of space because it operates with a proper deadlocked hermetic seal. The artist is from Dhaka, capital of Bangladesh. This is the first time an artist with Bangladeshi heritage has been invited in to the Whitechapel's gallery for a solo commission. In January 2020, Imran Paretta's The Destructors opened at Chisenhale Gallery. It was the first time Chisenhale had invited an artist with Bangladeshi heritage to come into their main gallery space with a solo commission. I am saying this carefully, so read it carefully. Numbers and representation doesn't matter. They don't affect material change. What I'm pointing to is a dynamic, power. Chisenhale is in Mile End. Whitechapel is obviously in Whitechapel. Both are in Tower Hamlets. Tower Hamlets Council's 2021 census report reckons that 34.6% of the residents in the borough are Bangladeshi. 14% were born in Bangladesh. Bengali/Sylheti is the second most commonly spoken language in the borough. Both Whitechapel and Chisenhale are very different galleries, both in Tower Hamlets. In 1988, Chisenhale opened their second ever show, a survey show called Essential Black Art. Black at this point was politically black and meant black and Asian artists. Curated by Rashid Araeen. None of the artists in this show are or were from Bangladesh, but Shubha Biswas was born in West Bengal. Whitechapel have included work by Bangladeshi artists in group shows. Rana Begum, Shahidul Alam. They've had Naeem Mohammed in for a talk. They did a day-long festival called Elo Mello with loads of Bangladeshi artists and arts workers, including, full disclosure, me. What I am trying to say is that there is a specific kind of artistic value ascribed to solo commissions. And it is weird that these firsts come so late for Bangladeshi artists, despite there being so many Bangladeshis in London's art world, despite there being so many galleries operating in London's East End, a part of the city that has traditionally been home to London's Bangladeshi community. It's a strange little knot to try and unpick, and I have clumsy fingers, an ability to say things cat-handedly. But the sun went in and it got dark. I sat in Whitechapel's second gallery, waiting for everyone to settle down so the speakers could start. I listened as Laisul interviewed Maha Ranjam and Samira Wadud. Maha runs Oitijo, a social enterprise that supports British Bangladeshi women into the catering industry by bringing home cooking into the public sphere. Samira is a fine dining chef, reimagining what modern Bangladeshi cooking might look like. They spoke and they weren't cat-handed. Authenticity is an awkward term to apply to any form of culture because it is wielded as a conservative power. Bangladesh has one of the biggest diasporas, considering it isn't even a massive country. Huge diasporas in Venice, New York, Dubai, London, all global art hotspots. In the UK, 8 out of 10 Indian restaurants are owned and run by Bangladeshis. Britain expects this food to be cheap. Takeaway. Why? British Bangladeshi women are the least economically active group in the UK, Maha said. They are busy with social reproduction, but that doesn't pay a wage, and so it doesn't give you automatic access to the power to make decisions for yourself. I looked down at Maha's bio on the press release and thought about my last day job. I used to work for a sustainable fashion brand that was a cooperative and a social enterprise. The co-op part was I was paid the same amount per hour as the founders, the designer, the seamstresses. The social enterprise part was British Bangladeshi women have sewing skills and no agency to turn those skills into gainful employment. So the sustainable fashion brand trained them up and gave them experience and paid them well for it. The food industry and the fashion industry, we expect these things to be cheap. Someone is paying for that expectation somewhere in the supply chain. Laisul asked Samira a question about plating and ingredients, and her answer made me think about ways to grab at conceptual value, ways to assert value when it isn't a given. We were all sat in a crowd in this gallery, no more brown noise, listening to the conversation. But I remembered the room earlier, nearly empty except for the dark cabinet, the trays, the snacks, the yellow glow. The gallery felt like in a liminal space, so cold and clean and empty. The yellow glow was so omnipresent, it almost had a body. The objects were pointing across land and sea at artist and father, quirks and foibles, something precious. The objects were pointing round the corner, down Brick Lane. The objects were pointing at the gallery walls, the container around it, the institutional shell, the power dynamic, the players. At the impossibility of being reunited with its context from behind this hermetic seal. I don't know. I don't think there was a desertion. I think there was a grab at conceptual value. It isn't always a given. Okay, thank you for listening. That has been this text. That is the end. I know there's an abrupt end. I'm okay with it if you are. unfortunately, yeah, this was only on for a day, but I will post a carousel with as many images as I took, basically. And I'll post that on Instagram. And if on that Instagram you would like to let us know that you made it all the way to the end of this, please can you give me, if you go all the way to the end of the emojis and to the symbols, if you can give me any kind of yellow symbol emoji. At the moment I'm looking at the yellow circle and the yellow square, but I mean, maybe you want to give me like the little yellow squiggle in the shape of an M. Maybe you want to give me the yellow sun emoji. Maybe you want to give me the trident. I don't know, but just the yellow glow feels like it was a significant component in this artistic exhibition display arrangement. Like it felt like a real if it wasn't on the list for like the materials list, yellow glow, I'd be like, what? Half joking. But yeah, if I could have that, a yellow glow emoji in whatever capacity that feels like. I know it's pretty late in the year. You will see me again, you will hear from me again next week, next Sunday, with my last text for the year. So this is my second to last. But that's all for now. I will see you again next Sunday and then I'm off. But thank you for listening. I hope you are having a nice time and I hope you're having a nice December. And Oh yeah. If you like this text and you would like to match the Whitechapel Gallery's donation to our writing practice, please can you head over to patreon.com/whitepube and you can, for as little as £1 a month, sponsor an art critic, much like a donkey. All right, that's all. Catch you next week. Have a nice weekend. Bye.